Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our town hall tonight and / school board meeting. Since it is school board meeting, I'm going to call this meeting to order. And to start, I would like to do the flag salute. Jake, could you lead us? With that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Rodriquez and let her take it away.
Okay, it feels really loud. I feel like I could probably talk. No, okay, I'll use the microphone. Thank you for coming, to brave the weather and the darkness. We're so happy to have you here, and I hope that you find this evening as valuable as I think we're going to find it. Before we get started, I wanted to give the board an opportunity just to do some quick introductions. So I'll start. I'm Dr. Jenny Rodriguez. I'm the superintendent. Many of you I've met in a variety of venues, but if I haven't met you, please make sure that when we are doing some of the activities tonight that you come up and introduce yourself. I'm just pleased to have you here.
Brett Jones, I'm District 3, currently president.
Hi, I'm Amber Baker. I'm the district board member from District 2, and I am currently the vice president of the board.
Hello, I'm Amanda Ronstadt, and I am the newest board director for 1.
I'm Donna Farnsworth, and I am the district rep for district number 4.
Evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate seeing new faces and old that are here to join us. But I'm Jake Breadstrand, your District 5 Board Director and your Legislative Rep.
Okay, so just to walk you through what we're going to do this evening, we've already done number 1. So those of us that like to check off lists like myself, we can check off number 1. We're going to do a survey here in just a moment, and you're going to get to see the results live. So you need your cell phone if you have one. So I'm going to give you a moment to get your cell phones out. We're going to be doing something called a Mentimeter. And board, you can participate too if you would like to with your cell phones. After that, I'm going to do just a short presentation to provide some background. It's really a repeat of information we've shared at previous board meetings, but just want to make sure everybody had the same information. We will then move into some small group mix and mingle work around the room, and I'll give you directions when we get to that. And after that, we'll just open it up for Q&A. Until the wrap up. And then we do have a reflection or feedback survey for you at the end as well. So with that, this is the QR code. You can just capture this. If you need assistance, you're like, I don't know what a QR code is, then Danny will come help you. If you need assistance, we'll get you in there. It's going to take you to menti.com. Does anybody need help? Just checking in. When you get there, if you'll look up towards me, then I'll know that you have it and you're ready to go. Is it working? Okay. Oh, you already took all the questions? Oh yeah, there'll be more. It's okay. Hold tight. High cap student right there. Okay. I still see a lot of you looking at your phones, so I just help a neighbor, check in with your buddy, make sure they were able to get in. This is what our teachers go through every time the kids get the laptops out. I'm just gonna Okay. All right. What is your main goal for attending tonight's event? We're going to just take a minute or so, and then as you guys enter, we're going to start to see results. So it's a word cloud. The larger the text, the more people entered that particular word. So it's giving you a sense of the top responses from the group, but it does include every single response that was input. Okay, fantastic. Next question. This is a multiple choice. What brought you here this evening? You wanted to learn about the proposed levy options, concerns about tax rates, sharing ideas on elementary number 3's design, interest in a long-term facilities plan, interest in a facilities advisory team, show support for the district, or other. Could be anything else would be an other. And you might be like all of the above. You have to prioritize. We have about 30. Oh, someone is like finding the thumbs up button. Okay, so you can see, so thank you for the loves and the thumbs up. That always feels nice for the board and I. But you can see we also have a good chunk of people that are interested in that long-term planning and a chunk of people who are really looking for information about the levy. So we're going to endeavor to really address these concerns and answer these questions this evening, but it just helps us to tailor some of our responses based on what you're interested in learning about. This is the next one. In addition to a capital levy, we have been talking about running a replacement EP&O levy, or just an operational levy. This is a replacement for an existing EP&O levy. We pay for a lot of things with this supplemental funding that is local funds. It really makes up a good chunk of our budget, about 15% of our budget. And every item listed here are things that are funded in whole or in part by the EP&O levy. Again, just trying to kind of assess the priorities in the room. I like how one thumbs up gives you like 10. That feels really positive. Okay, next one, the capital and technology levy. We've been talking about a variety of proposals. At our last board meeting last week, we talked about an option A and option B. Option B is currently what the district is recommending to the board for approval. It includes 3 things: building of elementary number 3, repair work at the existing older part of the campus of Union Ridge and South Ridge, and then also a small amount of funding to maintain our current technology budget. Not super shocked by the results. We've heard this in a lot of other forums and ways too, so just confirming. This is the last question. What's one principle that should guide the capital facilities team? Anything that you put in is going to pop up on here. You have more room to answer. It's not like the first question where you only got a word or two. I'm just going to kind of scroll back up to the top so you can see all the different comments that were made. Thank you. I think it's cool too. I was like, Danny, I'm going to launch a new toy at this event. Okay. Thank you. We will go back and capture all of that feedback, so we'll have that able to retain that information. But just really helpful for me as I think about what we're talking about this evening, and the board as well. We really want to make sure that we're being responsive to your needs with tonight's event. So thank you for participating in that. Here we go. Okay, so setting the stage, quick recap on the facilities, levies, and bonds. Board, I know you don't have a screen, but you have a hard copy, so you can follow along in your packet. Everybody else gets the cooler version behind you. So fairly quickly, levies are local property taxes. They are used to support a school district. It is unlike bonds in a variety of ways, but one of the most important is the level of positive vote that is needed to pass. It's a simple majority vote, 50% plus one from the residents of the district in order to pass a levy, unlike the supermajority required of bonds. We have already submitted to OSPI on the EP&O levy. That is the one that needs to go to OSPI first. So we've taken care of that in preparation for the potential vote coming up at the next board meeting. Levies can't be used for basic education, but that's a really tricky one. And if you want to learn a whole bunch more, you can go back to the board report that's posted on our website. There's a lengthy board report from the first meeting in October that gives you a lot more detail about the behind the scenes. What's important for us at this moment is just to know how have we spent the EP&O funds. So you already saw some of this listed out in that Mentimeter question that we took. But this gives you also a big list of how we've used EP&O levy funds in the past. Ridgefield has typically run these every 3 years. They can be run anywhere from 1 year up to 4 years. We opted in this case to stick with what has been tradition here, which is a 3-year EP&O levy, funding many of the exact same things that we've been funding with EP&O levies for some time. The rates are also challenging, but if you will hearken back to your high school algebra, because yes, you will use that in life, you can determine the levy rate by looking at the assessed valuation of the property within the school district, projecting successfully student enrollment. The state sets for us a per pupil cap, or what is sometimes referred to as the levy cap. The cap is $2.50 per $1,000 in assessed valuation, or a specific amount of money. Because we are a property-rich district, we will never get to the $2.50. We always max out with the per pupil calculation. This just kind of talks about that maximum again. The levy cap is the most we can ever collect. And so you can see here in 2017, with an update in 2019, the state has not always allowed us to fund this in the same way. So school finance has changed really since the 70s in the way that it's funded by the state and what's permitted to be collected at a local level. So what is our levy lid, if you will, or levy cap? So again, I got out my trusty pencil or calculator, probably on my smartphone, and calculated out that blue box, which is the levy rate, right? Solved for X. So you can see here as we projected for the next 3 years, the AV, which is based on a 5% growth per year, that is, I'm going to say, more conservative than the estimates we've had and the reality that we've had in the past, but we are seeing that the growth is starting to slow down in Ridgefield. The projected enrollment, we've also dialed that back considerably based on the numbers that we had this year and over really the last 5 years, just really thinking about how to project maybe a little more conservatively around enrollment. And when you have that along with the state per pupil cap, you can calculate out the maximum levy rate that we could run as a school district. So for Ridgefield, you can see here the maximum we could collect under that state rule is $1.75 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. Our current levy is at $1.50. And if I go back, you'll see in 2017, the state required all districts to drop to $1.50. So what happened in many districts, not just Ridgefield, is districts had higher rates. They all dropped to $1.50. And the very year that it went into effect, because it had a 2-year wait period, when it went into effect in 2019, the very same year the legislature went back and said, whoops, we made a mistake. And most districts said, we're not going to go back to our community. We just asked them for $1.50. Now you think we're going to just like up it to $2.50. So in that regard, the legislature gave us some pretty challenging circumstances with our local dollars. So we will, again, never make it to the $2.50. We've been at the $1.50 since that time, which was legislated and required at that moment in time. But at this point, given escalating costs, and you all know, like we go to the grocery store, you go fill up your gas tank, everything costs more, your car insurance bill is higher. All of that is true for us as a district as well. So we have really asked the board to consider going to the maximum of $1.75, so an increase of 25 cents over the previous EP&O levy. This just has the recommendation again, and so we've had a number of conversations at our public board meetings, and the resolution for this was reviewed at the last board meeting, and it is scheduled for a vote at our next board meeting on December 10th. So the piece that has been, I think, confusing for a lot of folks, and we've been doing our best to answer the questions as they come our way, is how can we build a building without a bond? Because for years, everybody's been told levies are for learning, bonds are for buildings, right? Yes, I see your heads nodding because you're like, yes, I've heard that. So perhaps a lesser known fact is that there are 3 types of levies that are permitted in the state of Washington for public school districts. One is that maintenance and operations levy. That's the levy for learning that people talk about all the time. We also have what's called a technology levy, which will take care of all sorts of technology expenses. And we can run a capital levy. Capital means construction. It means new facilities. So capital levies are able to be used to build new facilities, to pay for renovations, and also just to pay for general operating costs within a district. Again, just a clarity between bonds and levies. In either case, there is revenue that's generated locally that comes into the school district. When you run a bond, it's kind of like buying a house and getting a mortgage. You get a bunch of money up front to build the building, and then you spend the next 20, 30, or 40 years paying off that bill with interest. That's how bonds work. It's kind of like a mortgage. The capital project levy is a shorter term. The maximum is 6 years, and it is not a cash up front. So the money is collected each year and paid out to the district twice based on the tax collection periods. Bonds require a 60% yes vote and 40% validation, whereas levies, it's a simple majority of 50% plus 1. There is a limit on how much can be borrowed under bonds, not that same limit necessarily with capital. It's really up to the local community to make that decision. And in either case, they can only be submitted twice in a calendar year to the voters. So if we were to run this and it failed, we could run it one more time in calendar year 2025, but beyond that, we would have to wait longer. Also really important to the conversation this evening is the feedback we got from the bond that was ran last year, Prop 10 and Prop 11, which many of you are probably familiar with. And the feedback was remarkably consistent. Didn't matter whether people voted yes or no, we got very similar feedback. So it's nice when there are commonalities in our community. And the biggest thing we have heard through survey that went out, through sessions where we've talked to people, through conversation at board meetings, is that the new elementary is priority number 1. Again, regardless of whether people voted yes or no, there was, I think, strong consensus that we've heard that people see a need for that third elementary school in Ridgefield. We also had a lot of feedback about simplifying the design, getting rid of the turf at the field, having an elementary typical gym, not something that could be used for middle school, high school athletics. And there was also a lot of feedback about take out all of these extras. So the old, the old advice with bonds was you put something in for everyone. So you put something in for the people who have high schoolers, and you put something in for the people who have elementary kids, and you put something in for people who love sports, and you put something in for people who love debate. That advice has kind of become outdated, and I think we heard that from our own community as well. There's a real desire to focus on the basics. We also heard from some folks concern about 5th grade, and we're sitting in this beautiful campus, which serves our 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. So that is a big conversation really yet to be had. Important for us to take a look at enrollment. The majority of our neighbors are decreasing in enrollment. If you, all you have to do is look online, you pick up a paper. There are lots of stories about districts having to lay staff off. Even now, there are still stories happening. We have 5 school districts in our state that are in binding conditions, which basically means they can't pay their bills at the end of the month. We are lucky, and some people might not feel lucky, but lucky in the regard that we are continuing to grow, and we have the same or more students than we've had in the past. So it's not collapsing jobs in our community in quite the same way as it is in other communities. This is the enrollment from our September enrollment board report. So you can see where we landed, and this is the head count, so you can have the actual number of students served by grade level. We went through as a district and worked on some updated projected growth numbers. And on here, again, you can see that 24-25 in that second column from the left. Those are the actual numbers from the September enrollment report, which goes to the state. We do that every month. And then you can have the projections for the next 3 school years. Hovey and Johnson are both demographers, so the district previously engaged in having demography reports done. They typically go back 20 years and go forward 20 years. I don't know about you, but projecting 20 years in the future is quite challenging to be accurate. Think about where I was 20 years ago, didn't think I'd be a superintendent. We have done some of our own projections. There's nothing like a good Excel spreadsheet. So we've done our own projections, looking at our numbers, looking at the fact that we're not growing at 10% a year right now. It has come way down. But the slope of the line is still positive, right? So again, you saw in some of the other notes, we talked about like a 2.5%, 2.25%, 2%. So we're drawing this down over time. This gives you the total by grade band because of that 5th grade question. So looking at this, we're projecting where we will be at with our K4 kids, our 5-8 kids, our 9-12 kids, moving forward into the next 3 years. And you can see that in many cases, our projection is well below those demographers. They also did some of this work in that time period when we were growing 10% a year every year. So I think we're looking to be more conservative with those numbers and really think about what is the need. How many schools does Ridgefield actually need? I think in the past, perhaps there's been some panic of like, we're going to need 20 schools in 5 years. We're not. And so just taking maybe a little bit more of a slow and steady approach to the enrollment projections can help us make some decisions about facility needs. This gives you numbers per site. So everything's the same, I would say, at the 5-8, 6-8, 9-12. But what you can notice on this one is the elementary school specifically. This year, we have 2 elementaries. We have one just over 700 and one over 750 for an average of 746 students. Kinder through 4th grade. I just want you to think about the 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds you know, and if we put 750 of them in a space. Very challenging. Next year, because it will take a year to build a building minimum, we anticipate those numbers are going to go up even a little more. If we were to then open up a 3rd elementary in fall of 26 and we kept the K4 configuration, we're thinking that will drop us down into the low 500s, which is a much more comparable experience for our kids in comparison to all of the districts around us. You can go on the OSPI website if you are so inclined and look at the enrollment for every school in the state of Washington. And if you look at all of our neighboring elementaries throughout Clark and even Cowlitz County, most of them are 350 to about 500. They top out at like 550. So we still are on the large end of a typical elementary school. If we chose to move 5th grade back to the elementary, you can see that we're opening the doors at 630. And very quickly, that number is going to grow, and we're going to be back to where we are today. So this 5th grade question is a really important question for you all and for the rest of our community in really thinking about what might come next after elementary number 3, which is not something we're asking you to vote on or pay for at this time, or even putting before you as a possibility or an option. But it does really push us one direction or the other in terms of the need for a 2nd middle school or the need potentially for a 4th elementary school. SCAP is the rather convoluted state funding model for school construction. This is actually the only funding that our state provides to public school districts to build buildings or to renovate them or to fix them. It's the School Construction Assistance Program. Often you hear this called matching funds. It's not actually a match because it's not like a dollar for dollar type of a thing. But it makes sense because the community has to pony up a portion of the expense, and then you can access the state funding. Those allocations are really updated each year. They look at a number of years of our enrollment data. They look at our current square footage of our buildings. They look at something called the unhoused student population, which would be based on the size of our schools. How many kids do they estimate would fit and be in classrooms? Portables don't count. So when students are being served in a portable, they're considered unhoused, even though they're in a facility, in a building. That can change each year. The enrollment, the funding assistance percentage changes every spring. The construction cost allocation, which is basically the dollars per square foot. If you've built a house anytime, you look at the dollars per square foot. So they actually only fund a portion, not the actual cost of the building. And then changes in square footage in the district can have an impact. So as we think about the potential for an elementary number 3, the timing is important because those pots of money, once we open elementary number 3 and close out that project, it's going to change the amount of SCAP funding available to our district, even in the new and lieu category. So just important to keep that in mind. Here's what we currently have the ability to ask for. You can see here the eligible space. This is based on the number of elementary students, middle school, high school students that we have, and the current square footage that we have. The current cost per square foot that we're provided with reimbursement is $375. They'll pay a percentage of the overall cost, and so it gives you an estimate, and they will add 12.5% for soft costs. That's not bonus checks for Jenny. That's to like get furniture for the kids. So there's a lot of equipment, materials, things that go in a building besides the actual building. And so that's really what those soft costs are helping to cover. So you can see we have access to about $16.5 million for either elementary or middle. But we've heard loud and clear from the community, and we've seen in the enrollment numbers that elementary is really the priority. There are funds there for some new and lieu, so we've had some conversation at the board around replacement of the old buildings at Union Ridge and South Ridge, and that may be something we want to tackle at some point. And there's a smaller amount of funding available at the high school level. Other funding we can tap into is impact fees. These come with new houses. They are not charged against existing housing. And really those funds have to go to new schools, additions, enlargements. It's not something that we can use to repair. So for example, the Union Ridge roof, which I think is the original roof. Yeah. So again, I'm just going to tell my story. My mom's turning 70 next week, and she's younger than the Union Ridge roof. So we can't use impact fees to fix that. So this is important. We can use this towards new construction. And one of the pieces of feedback that was received by the district last spring after the bond was, why aren't you putting all of the impact fees to the building? And that was a great question for a community member to ask. So this is the whole kit and caboodle. There's not like more money sitting there that we're reserving to buy more property. This is putting all of that money towards that new elementary. So combining all sources, the current recommendation and example we've shared on the capital and tech is a 3-year levy. It times it alongside our EP&O, but again, 2 separate things. That would generate just over 21 million. We have 21 million approximately in impact fees. We can access about 16.5 million in SCAP, which gives us about $58 million to work with. Again, this is kind of the option B that we talked about at the last board meeting. And there's a lot of detail in here, but it's kind of showing you how those funds would be used. And a cash flow estimate. And again, because levies are not paid up front, it's not like a mortgage that doesn't buy me the house and I pay it off over time. We would be looking at some sort of short-term loan to get it built and then using those levy funds to pay it off. We have a big portion that we have cash in hand, but not the full amount. So there will be some interest. So when you see the asterisk up here, it's because I added interest dollars, knowing that that is going to be something we'll have to pay back. Always just kind of like to give a quick where are we at rate-wise, and people always have a lot of feelings about these graphs, and I almost took them out tonight, but I thought, nope, I'm going to just share the information. So in Clark County, we're the next to the lowest total tax rate at $2.66. You can see here, this is 2023, so the new year's not fully been totaled out, but $1.23 and EP&O at $1.43. We have not collected the full $1.50 of authorization for the last 3 years because we've had more growth. And when you have more properties, then that money gets split amongst those folks. We don't get more money. Hello, custodian. Okay. And then here's rates compared to districts that are similar in assessed valuation to us. We're kind of more middle of the pack, I would say in the lower half, but not right at the bottom. You can see it ranges from 67 cents up to $4.30. Okay, so I've been talking a lot, which is not my favorite teaching strategy, and I like to get out and talk to y'all. So we're going to do something called Open Space Technology Protocol, and it's kind of a misnomer because there's very little technology involved. It's like pens and markers and paper, so it's a little bit old school. This will give us a chance as a group, and the board's going to, I believe, participate as well. In the back of the room, behind you, there's a bunch of round tables. On those tables are pieces of paper, there's markers, there's Post-its, and you're going to go to whichever one you want to go to. We're going to take, I don't know what time it is. Oh, I'm good. That's good, 5:40. So we're going to go till about 6 o'clock, unless you guys get bored sooner, then we'll come back sooner. But till about 6 o'clock, you can get coffee. I think we have cookies somewhere. I don't know. They're, right there in the back. So grab an extra cookie. And then you can visit any or all of the tables. There's 5 principles to this protocol. Whoever shows up are the right people. Whatever happens, right? This is the right thing to happen. And when we're done, and we come back to our chairs. And I really like this law of 2 feet. So whatever brought you here tonight, I'm asking you to use your own gifts and talents to be helpful, a contributor, and a learner alongside of us this evening. So if you find yourself at a poster and you're like, yeah, I don't have a lot of feelings about this one, I don't have a lot to offer, not interested in this conversation people are having, then you decide and you use your 2 feet to move to another location where you can be a learner or contributor. So that is the gist. In the back of the room, there are 12. I feel like I want people to know what's back there, Danny. Here we go. So stations and posters. Number 1, and they're numbered, but I have no idea what order they're put in, so you'll just find them as you're back there. Okay, the ladies are going to point them out, so you can listen to my voice, but watch them as they're pointing behind us. Okay, number 1 is thoughts about 5th grade. Number 2, design revisions for elementary number 3. Number 3, ideas on facilities projects, any project you want to dream up about tonight. Number 4, guiding principles for our facilities team, yet to be named. Number 5, bond ideas, feedback, or questions. Number 6, thoughts on running 2 levies together. Number 7, questions about capital and tech levies specifically. Number 8, thoughts about school size, how big or small is ideal. Number 9, feedback on district communications. That could be any district communications, not limited to facilities. I just want to get a pulse check from y'all since you're here. Number 10 is about SCAP, whatever you want to talk about, all about SCAP. Sounds like scat, it's terrible. Number 11, impact fees. And number 12, if you had a magic wand, what would you change at Ridgefield School District? Again, not limited to capital facilities. So you are dying to tell me about your great idea. Now is your chance. You can write right on the poster. If you're a little quieter, you can write on a Post-it and stick your Post-it to it if you don't want to engage with the big Sharpie marker. Okay, thumbs up if you understand. Woohoo! Okay, we're going to take about 15 to 20 minutes. Enjoy. I'm a terrible timekeeper. Everyone who works with me knows this because I get caught up in conversations. But if you will finish your thought, make your way back, grab another cookie, we're going to come back together. Miss Danny, Do you want to just take it around for folks? I think that might be easier. Okay. How was that for you? Like fun? It was okay. Or like terrible, Jenny, don't ever do that again. Okay, nice. Good. I can't wait to read all the comments. I got around to about half of the posters. Anytime we ask for your feedback, I'm very intentional to use it. Otherwise, what's the point? So we will go back and Danny will type them all up because that's what she does for me. She's a rock star. And then we will have all that information for the board as they ponder and make their decisions and also to share back with the community. So at this time, we're just going to open it up for questions. Anything that you would like to ask me or the board, really about capital facilities, levy options, etc. And Danny has a microphone, so if you just give her a wave, she'll bring it to you. Don't stampede her, please. My life. I feel like I need the Jeopardy song, Chris. Awesome. Thank you, brave soul.
I was just wondering, what is the general vibe or feel that you're getting in regard to feedback on this topic?
Is this on still? Yeah. Thank you for that question, Ernie. I will say I've been to a few of the community cafes that the district has held over the last month and a half, and then just running into people as well, and having a few meetings on my own. I would say for the most part, what you all shared here was what I'm hearing on those posters, basically like a general excitement that there's another option, appreciation for some out-of-the-box ideas on a way to tackle the overcrowding, at least in the elementary level. Also kind of a sentiment of like, why didn't we know about this before? And some feelings about that, which are very real and valid, because many people here and not in this room worked, for years and years to try to help the district be able to build another building. So I think generally there's a sense of like, this sounds like a great idea. And then I think balancing that with also still, and this is what we heard last time around with the bond, it is not the easiest economic time across the board in our community. And so just being mindful and sensitive to that, trying to be as efficient, with resources as possible. There's definitely some of that as well. And so that's just what I'm hearing. Anyone else want to respond?
So I know you guys, at one point, it sounds like you sat down with a lot of the people that were very vocal no's for the bond. Have you had an opportunity to kind of sit down with them and show them some of these changes that you've made? And if you have, what's kind of the thoughts and feelings there?
I've been to one of the meetings that we've had, and a couple people came, but it was just like two, and they were both. One had nothing to do with levies or schools. It was a completely different conversation. So take her off. The other, it was very simple. The question between bonds and levies and what you can use, that we're trying to clear that up. Because I was trained the same way everybody else was, so it's kind of retraining of what we can do with that and what's I have to retrain as well. So I haven't really, we had a meeting right after the bond failed with 3 individuals that were strong no's, and I have not spoken with any one of those 3 since then. But we listened, and we are working together with the community with that survey that we put together. I mean, it was overwhelming, like make it smaller. There was certain things that everybody's kind of saying the same thing of, and we're doing it. And then the other thing is do something different. Well, this is different, right? This is more different than any other thing we've tried to do. So I hope that the pros and the cons are recognizing that we are listening, we are making adjustments, and still at the end of the day, trying to achieve a goal of educating kids in the best way possible. And overcrowding and having one of the largest elementaries in the state is not a bragging point, right? Ridgefield has a lot of things to brag about. That's not one of them. We need to kind of spread it out, give the teachers an environment that they can impact on the kids. So I just want everybody to know we are listening. We're listening to the praises, but we're also listening to what needs to change, and we're trying to make those adjustments.
Not a tremendous amount of people, but I have one individual that I've met with a number of times to discuss a variety of concerns, many of which have to do with the district budget, finance, decisions that have been made around properties. And some of the feedback from that individual has been really helpful. We had a piece of property that was set aside for the next middle school, and there was still some work occurring. And really that person said, like, why are you moving forward with that? The bonds didn't pass. And I was like, that's a really great question. I don't know why. Let me find out. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I'll just go sleuth it out. So that caused us to take some action based on them bringing that. And there's been a few other things to our attention. So I'm just really grateful for the feedback. I think it makes us better. We've had a few folks at community cafes that I would say are more middle of the road, are very concerned about the tax increase for them and for people who have particularly like acreage and a lot of land in the community. And so we've done our best, I think, to educate about the need and also educate about how this is a little bit different way to get this done. So I think there's been a lot of good dialogue. The reporter left, but the reporter was here, and he asked me, is this the hardest thing that you've had to do in this new job? And I said, well, actually, no, although it is the steepest learning curve to understand school construction finance, but the hardest part is bringing people together. So I just am really hopeful and grateful that we are listening to people from lots of different perspectives. For myself, we've done a lot of work internally, and it's part of why I wanted some communication feedback just in making sure our staff are well educated in what this could mean, what the board is working on, because certainly they all talk to people, and there's 500 of them and one of me. So I get a microphone sometimes, but I really need them to understand what we're asking and why as well. So I think we can always do more, but we are trying really hard to listen to all perspectives.
We just had a conversation with a couple of friends that they don't have kids, and their perspective is, if we don't have kids, why we should vote for a yes. How can we help you to communicate the importance of having these bonds and labor? I don't know how to pronounce it, but how can we pass this project in order to help the whole community? Because I have a kid that will be here for 4.5 years, and we still want to pass every single project for schools, because I was a teacher. I understand that having great schools means having a great community. How can we help you to work with the community so we can share that we can tell the people that think that it doesn't worth it to pay more because they don't have kids? Do you have a plan where we can enroll and help you?
Is this on? Can you hear me? During the bond, as a newer board member, talking to a lot of people, one of the best comments I heard from a couple individuals was, for someone who doesn't have kids in the district, isn't tied to the district, somebody did it for you back when you were younger, back maybe in a different district, in a different community, and that kind of pay it forward mentality. And ultimately, I think most of us in the room here tonight would say, like, it's the right thing to do, to invest in our community, invest in our kids, invest in the future. I think there's going to be certain people we're never going to be able to change their mind. They're going to be focused on their budget and their income, and I respect that. But I would lean into it's the right thing to do for Ridgefield. Ridgefield's an incredibly special community, and all of us in this room know that. And I think telling the story of, somebody probably was in your shoes 20, 30, 40 years ago and said yes to a bond or a levy that didn't have a kid in the district, but they did it for you and for others. So I think the more we can tell that story and leverage all this information and continue having conversations and educating people, I think can help move the needle and move voters like that to perhaps saying yes.
So there's another way too. You could say, nobody likes paying taxes. Really, nobody likes paying taxes. But everybody likes max value, like the potential value of their property and their house. And if you don't take care of your community, your property value will follow the direction that community is going in. If it's a dying community, your property values are dying. And schools are the head, they're the hub of that. So if you support your schools, you are supporting your community, and therefore you are supporting your property, your house, all of those things. So that gets right down to the nuts and bolts of it. Like, yeah, you don't want to pay taxes, but you also don't mind seeing where your house is now 30% more than it was when you bought it, or and that's a modest in Ridgefield. Like, a lot of people bought it here, and it's way up there, and they love that part of it. But there's things that come along with that, and so support your schools, support your community, and it'll support you.
I also heard a little bit in your question, like, what can you do to support the district to help communicate in the community? And so just again to remind people, the district is not allowed to do a whole lot of promoting when it comes to an election for a bond or a levy. If we vote to put this on the ballot, we can provide information, but we can't really encourage people to vote one way or the other. So that's really on you all as community members to help talk to your friends, your family, your neighbors, and the people that you know in this community. And we can help remind people to vote, and we can provide information, so we can partner and support with information. But it really is going to need to be a partnership between the district and our community to make this happen. So just, again, a call for you all to talk with each other before you leave and figure out how you might want to spread the word. And the district can help provide information, factual information, without lots of pictures of kids that will make you feel a certain kind of way, right? So just the facts we'll provide, remind people to vote, but you all are essential partners in that work, so, yep.
Thank you. I just had a question about how you plan on facilitating communication to the community from you. I know that you have board meetings and community cafes, and I attend those, but they're not always well-attended events, and we have a lot of members here that I think want to know what's going on, but aren't necessarily getting the information the way that we are right now. So how do you plan on bridging that gap?
Based on some feedback, we've heard from folks, particularly the folks that don't have children in schools, that they may not even drive by one of our campuses ever. And so they don't even see the reader board, which is a really low-level communication. So we have increased the number of mailers that we're doing, and it is expensive. And we sent out our first one in October. We're doing it quarterly now. And we've had a lot of really positive feedback from folks who don't have children in the system. So we're going to continue with that. Joe Weigert, our communications director, there's a lot on social media, but for a portion of our community, that's not where they go. They're not on social media. So I know we've done some reaching out to local newspapers around like, hey, we would be happy to do some op-eds, or we would be happy to provide some content. So we're trying to find other ways to reach folks that are not kind of going to the places that many of our parents go to, because they're from a different generation than most of us up here. Young, we're all young, that's what I said. Yeah, so I think that's helping. I know we've had some conversation about like homeowners associations. So hesitant to go out and do a big information share out until the board makes a decision. But if and when the board makes that decision, I certainly will be out visiting with staff at every campus. And then in terms of the community, a place that we thought maybe has been an untapped resource is our homeowners associations. Because you can't hardly buy a house here without being in an HOA, much to my husband's chagrin. So I'll start with my own neighborhood. And I would say that would be something that if you belong in an HOA, then call, and I'm happy to come and provide an informational conversation, discussion. So I think we're trying to get the word out. We will have another mailer coming up in December. We have our holiday cards, very exciting, go out. If you're not going to come in December 10th in order to see the vote, come and see the card winner from a very talented student that goes to school in this building. Yeah, but we're open to ideas.
I'm jumping in. I think that mailer, I'm not on social media, so that's probably and if I wasn't on the school board, that would be the best form of information that comes, everybody, you're getting your bills and you have something that provides just a quick impact of information. And if there is then a question, send us an email, right? Like, what do we mean by that? Or where are we going from that? But I'm a strong supporter of that mailer because it gets in virtually everybody's hands, whether they're social media or not, and it's just a quick, fact-based form of information. So, good job.
Yeah, I think there's some other things, and so I do want to give credit where credit's due. Like, we put this mailer together after it went out. I met with an employee who worked for us for 30 years and is now retired, and she's like, we used to do this. We used to send out this newspaper, the Ridgegram. People of a certain age know about the Ridgegram. So, okay, yeah, more young people know about the Ridgegram. And I know that we've talked about maybe bringing back the alumni lunch. And there's just some things that I think are really positive parts of our traditions and heritage in Ridgefield. So the more that we can maybe think about how we do those, even though we're bigger now, I think those are potential ideas too.
It's exciting. I get a microphone. Usually they don't allow me to have one. When we build the third elementary school, is the plans that we originally had for that third elementary the same plans that we're going to be using, or is that modified?
Modified. So the amount that we are looking at is a reduced cost based on a modification of the design that was a part of last year's bond. So we have worked with the architects that did the design to do some pretty quick conversation. We've had some just folks in the industry who've been willing to thought partner with us and come up with ideas. Already what we've eliminated is about 6,000 square feet. And we did that by eliminating kind of the really wide hallways. If you've been through Building B at Union or South, there's these beautiful collaboration spaces and bookshelves. And I know there was a grand idea. They don't get used. So we've looked at collapsing a lot of that space. That's going to change the exterior footprint of the building in a way that's going to make it a little bit more efficient. We've also already eliminated the competitive sized gym, so we're looking at just going back to a standard elementary. Won't have the wood floor, it'll have the more typical what you would have in an elementary floor. We're eliminating the turf, like we still need green space and place for kids to play, but getting rid of the turf field. So there's, and honestly, we're still looking for more cost savings because when you start building, there's always things that come up. So we're trying to find every penny that we can to still have a building that we're proud of and that serves its purpose, but is also as efficient as we can make it.
Hey, so getting back to the piece where you can't do lobbying or advertising or convincing people to vote a particular way. Last time around, you used the nonprofit Citizens for Ridgefield. I haven't heard a word of them yet. So can you update us on who's going to be doing the campaign?
I don't even want to touch this one. I have heard from one of their board members who requested to meet with me just to get information about what we're talking about at the board level. So I have met with one of their officers, chairs, etc. They shared that they have some ideas. So I would just really encourage people to connect. I know that there's a lot of people who want to help, and my hope is that people will connect with each other in a way that is invitational, inclusive, and positive, regardless of perspective. Tall order.
So Citizens has typically been the platform, and I'm assuming will be, but until we make a vote, they can't really start moving forward. So we need to do our job so then they can step up and do their job. And to my knowledge, Citizens is open to everybody. You know, and they're not turning away people that want to go volunteer and support. So I would take full advantage of participating in that organization. And that is the avenue that you can bang your drum and support. So, Citizens for Ridgefield Schools.
I would share that they did share with me that they have lost some board members and that they have open seats.
So there's also like maybe the Lions Club that you could present to. Are you allowed to do stuff like that? Yeah, so like the Garden Club. It also seems like it's such a small town that all the same people are in the same, like I've been at every meeting this week, like I just see all the same people. But anyways, so like the Lions Club would be maybe a good spot to kind of do this same presentation. And they could tell like their people, their friends, and a lot of those people might not have kids. You know, I know there's an Elks Club, or there's another club that's trying to start up, like a community club. So I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, we absolutely from the district will be providing informational presentations to anyone that would like us to do so. we have really strict rules from the Public Disclosure Commission about what we can say or not say, what images we can use or not use. So I won't be out with a sandwich board on Pioneer. But other people could be.
Yeah, that is where the community actually comes in, because her hands are really tied. I'm a citizen and also active board member, but so I have a little bit more leniency, but the community has unlimited. I mean, there's no tying of your hands, right? So that's where we really encourage the community to step in at this point and sell this, because it is a sales job. You have to sell it to somebody that doesn't want to pay more taxes. So yeah, that is your opportunity, and Citizens is the typical platform that organizes and distributes how it's going to be done but you know, I mean, I'm sure they're open to all types of ideas, right? You come and say, hey, I want to chair this part of it. I would doubt they're going to turn you away, unless it costs a bunch of money, right, that they couldn't afford.
And if you wanted to actively campaign against the levy, that would be an option too as a community member.
I was curious. I heard a couple board seats for Citizens might be open. Would someone from that group be willing to speak to opportunities to get involved? What's that? Anybody that is
I don't
here?
think there's anyone here
Okay.
from the
Good
Citizens
to know.
group, Jake. Okay, great. Sorry.
I would actually say I just have recently joined the board this last week, so I'm very new to that and open. I'm new, so I'm coming in with a fresh perspective and mindset, hopefully to hear anything and open doors to anyone that wants to help. My goal is to absolutely get our commission passed, and so whatever it takes, I want to be open with that. So I'm a new person, but I am on the board. Yes.
And if you don't know who that is, it's Carrie Upton.
Hey, so I felt like it just was kind of important, since it's the capital facility and technology levy. Do you want soft tee up here for you? What's the technology part of the levy?
Yeah, so the technology portion of the capital levy request is enough to generate, it's a rate of 6 cents per $1,000, which will generate for us $500,000 for our technology just replacement cycle. We cut actually more than that out of our technology budget this year. And I know some folks have said, well, how is that impacting? With technology in school districts, we do our purchasing in the spring and summer for the upcoming school year, and we run on a fiscal year that ends August 31st. So we used last year's money to purchase devices for this school year, so it's not hit yet. But without something else in place, it will have impacts for student and staff next year in terms of the length of time that they may have to have a device, the repairs that we're able to afford to do, and those kinds of things. That's Mike that works in our IT department, so thanks for the softball, Mike.
Last call.
Okay, so I know we'll hang around and Brett will close the meeting here momentarily, but please, before you leave, QR code and share your feedback. If you don't want to do it on your phone, we do have paper copies that Danny has, and you can just do a quick little paper copy, but I'm always looking as a facilitator for feedback on what went well tonight, what did you like, what could we do to make this process better for you as a participant. So please take a few moments to do that. please take 2 or 3 or 4 cookies for your spouse or children at home. And I'll turn it back to Brett to close the meeting.
Yeah, I would like to just thank everybody for taking time out of their day to participate here and contribute their thoughts and you know, all this stuff does get read, get paid attention, gets, you know, it becomes part of a data point for us. And ultimately, we're trying to get this thing passed. So we are looking and listening to everybody and trying to make concessions where we can. Believe me, I don't, the gymnasium and the turf field, I didn't like that, having to make that decision. But if that's the decision to get an elementary school, then that's the decision we have to make. And there's gonna be concessions. So anyways, I'm not gonna keep going on that. I just really wanna thank, everybody's time is valuable. You decided to spend some here today because this is an important decision for you guys, for the community, and I appreciate your support and willingness to be here. And with that being said, being this is a school board meeting as well, this meeting is adjourned.